You won't believe the tea we're spilling today. From secret breakups to shocking lies, this is unreal tea. Hit subscribe before the drama starts. Welcome everyone. The screen fades to black. A single line of audio cuts through the silence. Kody Brown's voice, strained, trembling. You'll see me full on sobbing. No context. No explanation. Just a man who spent more than a decade commanding attention on reality TV, now confessing that Special Forces Season 4 brought him to his knees. But why? Why would the figure habituated to cameras, conflict, and control break so utterly in front of strangers? Was it the vicious physical conditioning? The psychological combat from trainers? Or something deeper, something that had started long ago before the first obstacle course, in the dark corners of social media, where affinity was forged and one name was noticeably absent? Tonight, we replay the tape. We take it back prior to the uniforms, prior to the icy water, prior to the boots even hitting Moroccan ground. Because Kody's destruction, or salvation, wasn't begun by a bellowed command. It began with a whisper. With quiet. With one sentence thrown out there, chill out. And once that happened, the floor started to shudder beneath him. The chill out heard round the world before day one even saw the sun rise. Special Forces Season 4 was already spinning. Out of control in ways no producer could have possibly scripted. Phones had not yet been confiscated, comfort still lingered, and contestants were still basking in their final experience of freedom. Social media streams glowed with excitement, cast members tagging one another, sending fire emojis back and forth, posting inside jokes that left fans feeling they were in on something. But amidst all the cheering, one name did not appear. No tags. No shoutouts. No, let's rock this together, messages directed at Kody Brown. His stream was silent, almost antiseptic, next to the spark flying between other recruits. And then, suddenly, it did. An offhand comment inserted itself into the discussion, two simple words that had grenade power: chill out. Insiders say it wasn't an attack, not even intended as shade. A casual reminder to calm the enthusiasm. But for supporters who know Kody's past, the defensiveness, the anger when his authority is questioned, this wasn't a pebble dropped in the water. It was a brick that cracked the surface. Audience members who tuned into the preseason trash talk instantly knew it. The tension wasn't on the practice field yet, but in the invisible arena of egos. On a show where hierarchy is irrelevant, and deference can only be gained in mud and sweat, any suggestion of pushback against Kody's customary command presence was sure to land hard. And land it did. Within hours, fan boards erupted. Was the chill out a shot across the bow? Was it foreshadowing? Had the cast already made up their minds, before arriving in Morocco, that Kody wasn't part of the group? For veterans of reality television, it was déjà vu. Kody, who had been the fulcrum in Sister Wives, suddenly standing outside the circle. And this time, no family to return to. No loyal inner circle. Just strangers who had apparently done just fine without him. This wasn't just a remark. This was the initial crack. The initial crack in a wall that would only continue once the boots entered the dirt. The Instagram freeze out. The wait for Special Forces Season 4 didn't just unfold on screen, it was already happening on the battlefield of Instagram. Cast members were tagging each other in posts, getting their fellow castmates pumped about the shared experience, and indicating a sort of preseason fellowship. Teresa Giudice messaged her daughter Gia with encouraging emojis. Brianna de Jesus playfully bantered back and forth with fellow recruits. Even cast members who hardly knew each other dived into the comments with good vibes. But one person's silence was deafening. Kody Brown. Scroll through his posts and you wouldn't see the same enthusiasm. No tagging to fellow castmates. No "we got this" captions. No inside jokes shared. Rather, Kody's feed was oddly subdued, as if he was either not wanting or not invited to join the virtual team camaraderie building before the first challenge was even underway. And viewers caught on. They were no exception in comment sections either. Why is no one tagging Kody? Did the cast freeze Kody out before the show even started? Is this already like Sister Wives, where he's on the outside looking in? The freeze-out wasn't only social, it was symbolic. On a show predicated on collective misery and forced togetherness, Kody was already at a disadvantage. Not because of what he did in Morocco, but because of what wasn't occurring online. The silence was more deafening than any hashtag. The missing cheers. There are always hype moments each season of Special Forces, cast members cheering one another on before the storm sets in. This time was not different either. Gia's friends applauded her bravery. Teresa reposted all the clips, filled with maternal pride. Brianna laughed her way into alliances, her feed pulsating with electricity. But Kody's name being mentioned? Crickets. There were no public applause for him. No visible support from the other recruits. No excitement in comments that suggested, "We're in this together." Instead, the gap widened. His posts felt like a man alone, polished statements rather than authentic banter, captions that lacked the warmth others received tenfold. It didn't take long for viewers to read between the lines. If this was the preseason dynamic, what would happen when the physical fatigue, the sleeplessness, and the interrogations began? If the team wasn't with him online, why should they be with him in the mud? Kody's silence was more than a lost cheer. It was the first proof that the fight to come wouldn't be merely against instructors. It would be against solitude itself. Gia's breadcrumb. Next up was the breadcrumb. Gia Giudice, Teresa's daughter and the youngest newbie on the season, slipped a small but sharp comment into the preseason gossip. It wasn't boisterous. It wasn't combative. Just a light reminder that not everybody had gotten along with Kody from day one. She didn't specifically mention names, but the suggestion was there. A remark that some people weren't compatible. A comment that the few new recruits could find themselves standing alone. For a 23-year-old entering one of the most brutal reality shows on television, Gia's statement meant more than anyone could have imagined. Fans interpreted it in seconds. Screenshots circulated, arguments erupted. Is she referring to Kody? Was the question that transformed forums into detective boards. And the evidence fell in line, no tags, no cheers, and now a crumb indicating division. Gia hadn't ignited a war. She'd merely confirmed what many already believed: Kody was walking into Morocco as a question mark, not as part of the team. Brianna's blunt confession: if Gia's breadcrumb was discreet, Brianna de Jesus was not. In a preseason interview segment, one apparently designed to heighten tension, Brianna was questioned on group chemistry. She didn't sidestep the question. Her response hit like a gut punch: some people I just don't vibe with. Kody? He's one of them. It was brutal, offhand, and brutally honest. In contrast to Gia's evasive language, Brianna named him. On camera. On record. The repercussions were swift. Fans clipped it, reposted it, argued about it. Was Brianna just being honest? Or was something darker beginning, a cast-wide ostracism of Kody before they ever arrived in Morocco? What made Brianna's confession hurt more was the way she couched it. It wasn't that she disliked Kody. It was that she didn't trust him. On a program where survival is based on friendships, that one confession framed him as a liability. A guy whose presence could bring everyone else down. And with Brianna's words ringing throughout fan communities, Kody's silence only grew. The outsider label. When cameras began rolling, the label was already cemented. Kody Brown, the outsider. It wasn't emblazoned on his uniform. It wasn't yelled by the instructors. But it was there, carved into the looks, the rumors, the manner in which recruits formed cliques without him. Reality TV feeds on archetypes. The hero. The underdog. The clown. The villain. But Kody's position seemed cut out from day one. He wasn't an underdog, since underdogs have cheerleaders. He wasn't a villain, since villains have strength. Kody was something nicer. Someone to be ostracized. It reflected his Sister Wives story too perfectly for viewers to overlook. A man once at the center, now relegated to the fringes. And on special forces, fringes are precarious. They equal fewer comrades, less leeway when errors are made, and no support when fatigue grinds you down. The outsider status wasn't merely conjecture. It was portent. Stripped to nothing, the uniform rule, and then the instructors made it official. Special forces isn't glamour. It's about stripping individuals down to their bare essentials. No makeup. No comfort food. No sleep cycles. No outside world. And most symbolic of all, no personal attire. Each recruit is issued the same uniform. Same boots, same jacket, same number patches. Individuality is lost to raw human. For some, it was confusing but tolerable. For Kody, it was disastrous. This was a man accustomed to defining self through presentation, his hair, his stance, his control. The uniform destroyed all of that. He couldn't stand out through style. He couldn't mellow out his image through charm. He was just another face in fatigues, plodding through the mud. And in that similarity, his status as an outsider sharpened. Because when everybody is the same, respect is not gained in appearance, it's gained in sweat, grit, and unspoken power. And those were things Kody hadn't yet acquired. The rule of uniforms wasn't about punishment. It was about revelation. The question was basic, cruel: who are you when all your clothes are taken away? For Kody Brown, the reply remained concealed. But cracks began to appear. No comfort, no escape. The initial night in Morocco shattered them. The recruits packed into their dormitories, devoid of every amenity. No mattresses. No privacy. Thin mats on concrete floors, with the desert wind howling through the cracks. Showers? Ice cold. Food? Rationed to the point where it made little dent in the hunger. For most, it was a shock, but bearable. For Cody, it was a nightmare. He wasn't just uncomfortable, he was vulnerable. This wasn't Flagstaff, where he could slam a door and dominate a space. This wasn't his truck, where he could peel out in the middle of an argument. Here, there was no way out. No house. No power. No hush. Cody stirred and tossed, unable to sleep as others adjusted with bleak resignation. Boots clanking, heavy breathing, grunts in the dark, it all scraped at his nerves. And in the darkness of that first evening, something was made obvious: this was not a show he could stage. There was no script, no edit he could command. For one time, Kody Brown was not the author of his tale. He was merely another grunt in the mire. And the mire had no idea who he was. Psychological warfare morning arrived like a hammer. The instructors burst in, clanging metal, shouting commands. Sleep-deprived, starved, and just acclimating, the recruits were pushed through their first bout of mental games. On your faces. Now. Move. Faster. Push-ups, crawls, log carries, water dunks, the physical anguish was merciless. But the true torture was not physical. It was mental. The instructors isolated recruits, destroying them with taunts and constant harassment. Gia was labeled fragile. Brianna had her mouth ridiculed. But when they addressed Cody, their blades sliced deeper. You think you're in charge here, Brown? You think you're somebody? Out here, you're nobody. Out here, you're dead weight. The words fell like lead. Cody was not being tested as a leader, he was being taken apart as a man. And the horrible thing was, he was not only enduring the instructors' humiliation. He was met with the recruits' silence. No one came to his defense. No one softened the blow. The loneliness he'd brought from Instagram was now echoed in the dirt, under the sun, before the world. Psychological warfare had set in. And Cody was already losing. Reality of the barracks. After the drills were over, the recruits trudged back to the barracks. Muscles cramped, skin blistered, and pangs of hunger racked their bellies. And yet, even in that suffering, something unusual occurred. Connections began to be established. Gia and Brianna exchanged hushed guffaws over the ridiculousness of hauling logs twice their weight. Teresa and another trainee divided protein bars, breaking bread in solidarity. Small alliances sprouted like crevices of light in a cave. And Cody? He sat by himself. The barracks, bare as it was, had also turned into a microcosm of community. Individuals relied on one another, not because they enjoyed each other's company, but because mere survival required it. Except for Cody wasn't included in the we. His efforts at joining in conversations were rejected. Jokes went unreplied. Witted remarks were disregarded. It wasn't outright hostility, it was worse. It was indifference. In a world where laughter might equal survival, Cody was the silence nobody wished to bear. And on that night, while the others slept with the faint relief of common wretchedness, Cody stayed awake gazing at the cracked ceiling. The truth was clear, the fight waiting for them wasn't just a fight against exhaustion. It was a fight against being invisible. The breaking point. It began with the sand crawl. The recruits were ordered into the blistering Moroccan sands, packs bound tightly, rifles bouncing across their shoulders. The mission was easy: crawl. But the sun was pitiless. The sand burning, and the packs ridiculously heavy. Gia fell halfway through, lips dry-cracked, arms shaking. The instructors yelled at her to stand up, spewing curses like shrapnel. And then their eyes moved on to Cody. Brown, get her up. Carry her if you must. This was his time. An opportunity to make up for lost ground. An opportunity to show he wasn't dead weight. But Cody stilled. His own pack biting into his shoulders, his frame already strained with the load. He looked at Gia, and then at the instructors, and then at the recruits standing in silence. Rather than going, he shook his head. I can't. The words tumbled out, unsmoothed and last. The instructors came down like wolves. Gia was pulled forward by another recruit, and Cody was left to wallow in his defeat. That one no, recorded on film, seen in brutal detail, became the moment that would never be forgotten by the audience. The breaking point wasn't only physical. It was mental. Cody wasn't breaking through. He was breaking down. Gasoline on fire. The barracks that evening was charged with rumors. Did you see him? He wouldn't even assist Gia. Why is he even present? The reality TV machine does not require villains, it creates them out of weakness. And Cody's second of doubt was repeated, analyzed, and amplified. To his fellow cast members, it was confirmation. To the audience, it was fuel to a flame that had already been burning since his Instagram scandal. And Cody knew it. He sat silently, teeth clenched, glancing over at the door as though flight were still an option. But no Flagstaff cul-de-sac beckoned. No TLC camera team to write his script. Here, unedited footage spoke truthfully, and truth did hurt. For the first time, Cody wasn't merely hated. He was hated. And the worst of it? He was beginning to hate himself. The test of loyalty. The following morning, the recruits were lined up in formation. A new drill was declared by the instructors, the trust exercise. Each of the recruits was blindfolded and instructed to fall backward off a ledge into the arms of their group. The concept was easy: prove your bond, prove your trust. They went one by one. Gia fell, caught securely. Brianna fell, caught with giggles. Even the most reluctant recruits overcame their fear, trusting others to catch them. And then there was Cody. He stood on the edge, blindfolded, arms outstretched. The instructors shouted, "Fall." But as his body tipped back, he froze. The quiet was so loud. The recruits stood, arms extended. But the hesitation lasted long enough to prove the truth: he didn't trust them. When he finally released, their arms caught him, but the harm was already inflicted. It wasn't whether they caught him. It was how long it took for him to fall. The delay was greater than the catch. And in that instant, every recruit realized, Kody Brown wasn't a team player. He was just a player to himself. Isolation chamber. Following the trust exercise, Cody was taken aside. Not punishment, but strategy. The teachers put him in a tiny, Spartan isolation cell, a concrete-walled room with a solitary dim bulb and nothing more. No mattress. No blanket. No noise other than the soft whine of the AC. Hours became forever. In the outside hall, the barracks were abuzz with friendly laughter and camaraderie. Inside, Cody was alone with himself. No Facebook to occupy him. No constructed image. No friends to cling to. Only his thoughts, boisterous and unyielding. By the second hour, his mind went into a tailspin. Every setback, every snub, every moment of hesitation in public replayed constantly. The Instagram snub. Brianna's cutting comment. The crawl on the beach. His moment of hesitation in the trust exercise. All of them swirling together into one, crushing pressure. It was here, all alone, that Cody's inner battle became apparent. The tears he swore to the crowd started to roll, not out of sympathy, but in release. The fractured mind. When Cody was let out, he was a different man, or at least, a man fracturing at the seams. He floated around the barracks, eyes cast down, speaking in short sentences. Every look from another recruit was judgment. Every burst of laughter from Gia or Brianna was mocking. The instructors picked up on it. They had crafted this moment on purpose, aware that solitude would reveal cracks in mental fortitude. Cody's body was weary, sure, but his mind was the actual battlefield. Little things became Herculean. Lugging a sandbag up a wall seemed impossible. Obedience without question seemed like treason. Every failure reinforced the swelling narrative: Kody Brown was alone. And in special forces, alone isn't just an emotional obstacle, it's a survival risk. Shadows of home night descended, but sleep did not. Cody couldn't sleep, reliving memories of home. Decades of reality TV. Decades of family judgment. The need to dictate every story. All of it pressed down harder in Morocco than it ever had. The isolation room had stripped him bare, yes, but it had also compelled him to look at the life he had created outside, and the persona he depended on to survive. He understood something eerie: in special forces, all past accomplishment is irrelevant. No prior glory, no relatives, no previous wins. Only the here and now. Only the deeds here, now, equal living. And with this understanding came fear. Not of the training, not of the instructors, but of himself. Could Kody Brown live as merely a man, without armor, without the carefully constructed image, without the prearranged loyalties? The shadow of home was long, but the shadow of Morocco was even longer. And Cody was standing in it, vulnerable, anticipating the next test. What breaks a man? The dawn drill was intended to break even the toughest recruits. The challenge: pull a 200-pound dummy through rough terrain, then lift it over impediments as a group. Brutal. Aggressive. The type of exercise that would reduce the human body to simple instinct. Cody was grouped with recruits who had already lost their temper with him. His dead weight reputation preceded him, and the glares alone could cut through Moroccan dust. "Pick it up, Brown," someone yelled. "Don't you ever quit on us again." His legs trembled. His breathing came in ragged gulps. He dropped the dummy halfway around the course, and didn't resume it. He staggered, knees buckling, then fell across the sand. The instructors descended upon him in a flash, shouting for him to rise, their faces a flare of rage as they spat in his face. Cameras panned close, recording every spasm of his spent body. For the audience, this was the moment, the physical cracking point to accompany his previous psychological disintegration. And for Cody? Humiliation etched in granite. Alliances formed. The breakdown altered the power dynamics within the barracks. As Cody reclined in medical examination, Gia and Brianna grew closer to the other recruits. Laughter, shared rations, home stories told. Bonds were being created, allegiances cemented. Cody was again excluded. Brianna, never one for sugarcoating, boiled it down in a hushed aside with another recruit, he's holding us back. We can't keep carrying him. And that's how Cody's loneliness became not only emotional, but structural. He wasn't merely disliked, he was excluded strategically. The others regarded him as a liability. And in special forces, a liability can be the difference between victory or defeat. The show didn't need to write villains. The recruits did. The reputation trap. When Cody returned to the group, his breakdown already defined him. He wasn't Cody, the survivor. He wasn't even Cody the dad on Sister Wives. He was Cody the weak link. The instructors were aware of this, and they took advantage of it. Every command was growled in his face. Every pause was emphasized. The recruits were commanded to drag logs, to march through mud, to crawl under barbed wire. And each time Cody fell behind, the cameras stayed with him, capturing not only his struggle but also the frustration expressions of his peers. The reputation trap was sealed. Regardless of what he did next, the crowd had already concluded. He wasn't redemption in the making. He was a warning. And Cody felt the walls closing in. Not the walls of Morocco, but the walls of public opinion. Again, the question wasn't if he could survive. It was if he could survive the cut. Survival versus authority. By this point, all the recruits knew the reality. Survival wasn't just about being physically strong. Survival was about being smart. The instructors only wanted submission. Every command had to be obeyed, no questions asked, no hesitation. But to Cody, unconditional obedience was submission. He wasn't made to give up. He was constructed to dominate, to direct, to dictate. And so when the recruits were told to march into icy water and stand firm until ordered out, Cody demurred. His body protested, but his pride stood still. I can't, he whispered. The instructors descended immediately. To them, hesitation was not merely weakness, it was insubordination. Recruits beside him dove in, teeth chattering, eyes closed. Gia stood tall, her jaw set in determination. Brianna gritted her jaw, not showing fear. And Cody? He stood outside. The water, shaking, not with cold, but with the conflict between survival and submission to authority. Humiliation was the perfect storm. The silent wars inside the barracks, the cracks grew deeper. No one yelled. No one staged epic showdowns. The war was quieter, deadlier, waged with silence, with stares, and subtle omissions. Cody sat at the mess table, and the talk would stop. He'd speak a word while planning, and the others would avoid him. Even his attendance at drills seemed like an overbearing shadow cast over the morale of the group. Gia, however, was doing wonderfully. Her relationship with her mother provided her with her strength. The other recruits were drawn to her discipline and poise. Brianna, uncouth but indomitable, forged her own path of respect. Cody was left with only silence. And silence, in special forces, cuts deeper than any yelled curse. The message was not spoken but understandable. He wasn't included in their survival. He was a hurdle to be tolerated. When the cameras take sides, all recruits learn this eventually. The cameras don't simply film. They pick sides. By now in Morocco, Cody was a narrative. The outsider struggling. The one breaking under stress. The one apart in silence. Producers didn't have to demonize him outright. They just needed to accentuate the hesitations, the breakdowns, the scowls of frustration from the other recruits. A cutaway here. A pause there. The story was telling itself. All the while, Gia's determination was being set up as heroic. Brianna's truthfulness was being portrayed as a breath of fresh air. The contrast was savage, and not accidental. Survival in the world of special forces isn't only physical. It's editorial. And Cody was losing both. The sobbing confession. The breaking point came at night, after another grueling march across the Moroccan desert. The recruits returned to camp, blistered and battered, their bodies collapsing in readiness. The instructors, smelling weakness, commanded everyone to sit in a semicircle under the floodlights. The cameras closed in tight. Then interrogation started. Recruits were questioned one by one. Why are you here? What are you hiding? What are you afraid of? When it came to Cody's turn, the instructors didn't spare him. Think you're a leader? Think you're respected? Take a look around. Nobody here trusts you. Why in the world should we keep you? The silence afterwards was choking. For the first time, Cody couldn't posture. He couldn't smirk. He couldn't turn words into armor. Tears formed in his eyes. His voice broke. I wanted to show that I wasn't the man everyone thinks I am. The floodgates opened. Every hurt, family, reputation, pride, spilled out in raw sobs. The cameras zoomed in, recording the spectacle. It wasn't strength. It wasn't redemption. It was desperation stripped bare. And once, there was no edit he could control. Redemption or ruin. The confession didn't heal him. It divided the room. Some recruits saw humanness in his meltdown. They whispered afterward that perhaps, just perhaps, Cody was trying. That beneath the arrogance there was a man finally beginning to crack open. But others rolled their eyes. Too little, too late, one grumbled. He's still holding us back. The instructors, too, were split. They pushed him harder in drills, testing whether or not the sobbing man in the floodlights could become something else. But each stumble, each wobble, each howl of agony was another nail in the coffin of his credibility. Cody struggled. Truly. He charged at barriers with bare rage, dragged logs until his arms weren't capable anymore, dove into icy water with gritted teeth. He drove his body harder than it cared to go. But within the hard calculus of special forces, redemption is not a matter of effort. It's timing. And Cody was out of both. Who gets the edit crown? The finish did not come with a bang, but with a decision. Cody faced the instructors, bruised and exhausted. His uniform was draped on him like tattered rags. His eyes were sunken. From nights spent awake. You can quit now, one of the instructors growled. Ring the bell. Walk away. Or stay and show you've got something left. What's it gonna be? For what seemed an eternity of shuddering, Cody did nothing. His fingers wavered above the bell, the token of defeat. His lips quivered. His breathing faltered. The cameras cut in tighter than ever before. The crowd would never forget this picture, whether of weakness or bravery. And here was the most brutal reality. Cody's choice meant less than the cut. If he remained, the show could still paint him weak, broken, lagging behind. If he walked away, the show could make it seem as inevitable, the fall we all predicted. Cody's destiny was no longer in his control. It was in the cutting room. And that, maybe, was the hardest lesson of all. Special forces doesn't just shatter your body. It shatters your image. This family's drama is far from over, so smash like if you're #TeamWives, subscribe for the next explosive update, and drop a comment below. Who do you think will win? Stay shady, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next scandal. Kiss mark. Behind TLC Sister Wives out.